Episode 9 of Networking with Nick. Welcome back. I'm excited to introduce my guest today. Today, I'm excited to introduce James Willson, the amazing owner of ICS Collision Center, a top-notch auto body repair shop located right here in Derby, Kansas, serving the Wichita area. They specialize in fixing up cars after accidents and making them look fantastic again. Whether you've got a new fancy car, like right here, or a vintage classic, or even a big rig or RV, they've got you covered. Business and local governments trust them with their fleet vehicles, and regular folks rely on them to get their everyday cars back on the road safely. Plus, the restoration work is truly impressive. No matter who you are, James and his team at ICS Collision Center aim to wow you with their results and make sure your vehicle is in great shape. My guest today, James Willson. What's up, brother?
Thank you for the kind introduction.
Yeah,
that was very nice of you.
I put a lot of effort into that. I want, on the show as it continues to go on, I want people to feel appreciated. I want them to feel like I put some value into this for them. I want them to get something out of it and give them a platform to be able to just talk. Some people don't have that yet, and
that's true.
It's nervous to make that platform. So I want to help make a platform that gives people the ability to just talk about themselves and their business.
Great idea.
I love it. So are you a Derby local? Did you find are your roots originally from here, or what's the story?
No, I'm originally from Colorado.
Okay, how did we get
as I tell people, this is where Dad dropped us off.
Okay.
Anyways, no, that being said, no, serious.
Dad just dropped us off here and
Dad is rolling through Wichita and like, out the door, kids. No, my brothers and I were born in Colorado back in the day. My dad worked for a company called Cloth World. Right. And so think of like a modern day Hobby Lobby. They sold bulk patterns, fabrics, yarns, things like that.
Yeah.
And so every 2 years we were moving. And so as he would open a new store, he'd go in and train up the new team.
Oh.
So we've been in Tulsa, Oak City, Colorado Springs, Denver. Long story short, yeah, we ended up back in Wichita, and I did graduate from Derby back in '89. So a couple days ago, that yeah.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Yeah, like I said, I know I'm old enough to be your father, so there you go.
Hey, it is what it is.
Anyways,
just that age is experience. I'm gonna catch up eventually. We all have to get there one day.
There we go. There we go.
That's how it is. So you graduated from Derby and then ended up staying here. Did you travel at all? Did you move yourself as you kind of came into your own adulthood?
Yeah, so in high school, I was studying for architectural engineering and design.
Really?
And so that was where I was really drawn to. I was doing drafting all through high school. Loved it. Loved the design concept, really modern, elegant things. Everything you see in Architectural Digest 35 years ago, 40 years ago is still modern today. The issue was when I graduated and I was looking to go to college, the market was saturated with architectural design and engineers.
Oh, no.
And so at the same time, I'd fall in love with working on automobiles.
Okay.
And so kind of the collision side got drawn out of me when I had I had friends, my parents, their friends lived across the street and they played bridge, weekly and things. Anyways, they owned a small kind of a hole-in-the-wall body shop back in the day.
Okay.
It's no longer around, but I thought, hey, I'll check into this and see if I'm interested. So I started out sweeping floors, washing cars.
How old were you at the time?
16.
16.
And, so I was still drawn both ways, architectural engineering, but I'm like, I like cars too. And then just really drawn to what, is like an art form, taking something and putting it back together so it didn't look like anything had happened. To me, that is more of a challenge than like the show car stuff. To me, granted, there's talent that goes into doing show cars and making them perfectly straight and polishing them like a mirror. But I'm like, there's something to be said to taking something like this, putting it back after it's been involved in an accident and making it look factory.
Now, this is a beautiful car sitting behind us. This is a Fisker, which this is the first time I've ever got to see one of these in person. It hums. It has this very cool hum when you were backing it in. I hope I got some roll of it. I'm gonna throw it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I've never heard a car make that sound. It was so cool.
Like I told you, and I forget what the story was, but to me, it reminds me of like a Tron light cycle.
The hum
and
of
I'm
the
like,
cycle.
Oh, that's like, it's just a sound. It's a hybrid vehicle, so when it's running, fully electric, that's what you hear. But yeah, just a cool sound.
Is there a particular story behind this? Did it have damage? Did you have to bring this back to life?
No, this one was a one-owner vehicle. It had actually been traded in. The owner had it in, my understanding is the owner had it in Oklahoma City, a large vehicle collection. And it only had like 7,300 miles on it. Anyways, they wanted to trade it in, and that and like another dozen cars. They want to get some new Porsches. So they traded them in to Walser Porsche.
Okay.
And yeah, it was like, I think it was February. It was one cold day after BNI. And I was driving by the Porsche dealership, and I'm just driving by. I was like looking, I was like, oh, Porsche Fisker. I'm like, whoa, what's that doing there? That's like, which one's not like the others? I'm like, this is like,
where's Waldo? Found him.
Yeah, I'm like, this is just odd. But I was like, I'm probably one of a handful of people that knew what the car was. And so, yeah, I hung a Yui and went back and, went out, test drove it, checked it out. And,
I'll take this home.
Yeah. And the only reason I knew what it was is from years prior when Fisker actually had the dealerships around.
Okay.
I was down in Bentonville, Arkansas, and I was down there with a fellow shop owner. We were actually looking to, another manager, we were looking to go into business down there together.
All right.
It didn't work out for us. I still stay in touch with him, but at the end of the day, he ended up moving, but they had like this trim level. They had 3 different trim levels. They had this trim level, this color vehicle, like showroom floor. I'm like, that is just a gorgeous car. And so the fact that I stumbled across one, seriously, accidentally, I made a left turn instead of a right turn that day, leaving BNI.
That was it.
I guess it's just meant to be.
The universe is like, you need this car.
Yes, yes.
So back when you were 16, sweeping floors, is that when you kind of started getting the love for cars, or when did that take root?
The love of cars started when I was really young.
Okay.
And I'm going to say I was probably 7 or 8.
What? So was there someone involved?
No.
All right.
No, my dad was not mechanically inclined. He didn't wrench at all. So kind of backing the bus up, so to speak. So after he had left Cloth World, we'd moved up to the Panhandle in Nebraska. And my dad, my mother, and another couple, they started their own fabric store business.
Okay.
So they had a couple of different locations, a couple of different cities. And it was kind of like the small, you got to remember how much older I am than you, kind of small town vibe. We had, had the main street. And so from the store, we'd either ride our bicycles or we'd walk up and down. We had like the Five and Dime, and like before Walgreens had like the old drugstores. And so that's what it was, is I had gone to the drugstore, and it was back before Barnes and Noble. It was kind of like the, book collections, like a magazine and book rack. And they had cars of the 20s and 30s there.
Oh.
And so I still have that book.
You still have it today?
Yeah, I still have the original book because those vehicles I still love. Now, all of those cars, most of them are in museums. So like a 35 Auburn Cord, or like the old Duesenbergs, like the Boattail Speedsters.
I know what it's. I've heard of a Duesenberg. The first one I wasn't familiar with.
Like an Auburn Cord, like a Boattail Speedster.
See, I don't know what that is
I absolutely love those. We can Google foo it.
I'll find a photo of that.
And especially with like the cat's eye kind of headlights. Anyways, I know I'm talking Chinese to you right now, but
no, it's fine.
But I fell in love with those old vehicles because of just the design. The thoughtfulness that went into the design, and the fact that they were all hand built. The talent that it took to create those things that weren't being mass produced.
Because we didn't have mass production quite figured out yet.
Right, and so you had the master coach builders. You look at Rolls-Royce and some of those designs, and they'd send them to coach builders for the body work. Like Rolls-Royce would build the chassis, send it to a master coach builder, and then they would finish it out in the trim level and all that stuff. And so just the uniqueness and the specialty of those vehicles back in the day, the craftsmanship. I think that's what drew me to them.
Yes, there it is. The talent and the skill that was needed, like in the level of detail and
absolutely
commitment you needed to making the piece of machinery.
So I'm looking at cars from we'll say the 30s, mid 30s, and comparing them to, again, I was younger, so like mid 70s, in those types of vehicles that were out. So I mean, we had like the muscle cars of the 60s and 70s that were cool, but those were still not those vintage hand built cars. So I think that's where my true love came from, and that's why I've always just been passionate about them.
So I know that you used to have a Rolls Royce. Now, is because of that passion of those older style cars like that, is that why you had the Rolls Royce and wanted it in the first place?
So I am a sucker for the quirky vehicles.
Quirky vehicles.
Quirky. So like I love anything that's right-hand drive.
All right.
And so again, you can Google through this. In fact, it's probably on a YouTube channel. Um, so yeah, one of the things I loved back in the day was like the old Grey Poupon commercials, where you'd have you have the Rolls Royce guy, and then the other guy would pull up, roll down his window. The chauffeur's driving, they're in the back seat.
Yeah.
He's like, "Excuse me, pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon?" Something like that. Um, I don't know. All these childhood seeds that were planted when I was a child, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably just stuck with me. But yeah, Rolls Royce to me is like the pinnacle of perfection and luxury and craftsmanship.
I mean, when you think of Rolls Royce, when you say it as a brand, like it is the top tier brand. Like when you get a Rolls Royce that it's going to come with certain features that only a Rolls Royce can have, because it is that brand that they've built over years and time, and just no one else can have it. It's only a Rolls Royce. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
I love that. Now, how hard are they to restore and work on though? That's the
well,
question.
and that was kind of thing. We had started. We did the YouTube channel, and we'll get back to that hopefully this year again.
Right.
We started the video on that vehicle, but what we noticed is that it had been neglected for quite some time, and it had just a lot of corrosion in the frame, and it was probably going to be $150,000 restoration. I mean, it ran and drove great, but at the end of the day, I have too many other projects. We've got our 68 Datsun Fairlady. I've got the 85 Lotus Turbo Esprit. That's the next one up on deck. So it just too many irons in the fire.
Yes.
And
so
we had to let her go.
With these decades of experience under your belt, truly like mastering, fixing and restoring cars, what are some of the most challenging cars that you've come up against? Just the ones.
Some of the most challenging, like the ones
nightmare cars that you've had to restore. Those tough
situations. Well, like true restorations. I'm not gonna say we've had any really nightmarish, because anything that's being restored is usually 35 plus years old, and the vehicles were simpler to work on.
Okay.
Their design was simpler. There's a lot less electronics. I mean, you think about all the collision avoidance systems, supplemental restraint, electrical things like that. They just didn't have them. Okay. So those, and their tolerances were a lot wider, shall we say.
It's fair.
Some of them you can roll. I mean, I'm sure you see in the Lexus commercials, right, where they'll roll like a ball bearing, down between the fender and the hood edge type of thing. Yeah. Yeah. On the older cars, you could like roll a bowling ball. The gaps were just that much wider. So I'm not gonna say there was really any ones that really drove us nuts or that were challenging.
Yeah.
Now newer cars is a different story.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you, is like, because starting out back then with more mechanical cars versus what I feel like are now electric mechanical cars. Everything has a computer. Everything has some wires going to it. Has that technology just been more of a challenge when it comes to restoring cars nowadays, just because of all the sensors?
I'm not going to say it's more of a challenge. What I will say is very document focused. And what I mean by that is, so one of the things that sets us apart from the majority of the shops in our immediate market is the level of research that we have to put into the vehicle before we even begin the repair process.
Okay.
And so, for example, we have a late model Ford Transit van back here. It's a Transit high roof van. You're thinking, oh, it's got to be simple to work on. Well, the first thing we have to do before we start working on it and disassembling it, we have to know, okay, how do we disconnect the electronics? Okay. Right. And then the supplemental restraint system, the airbags. Okay. What is the process to disable, and to, how long do you need to wait before you can actually start unplugging things? Is it 30 minutes? Is it 2 hours? Because the electricity stays charged within the system. And then you look at all the different exotic materials that are going into the design of the vehicles now. That Ford Transit has 10 different types of metals. Everything from mild steel to high strength steel to ultra high strength steel, all these different metals. And so each one has a different repairability. Some things you can do, some things you can't do. Sometimes you can only do cold straightening. Other things you can use heat on. Other things like boron, no. If it's
Boron.
boron steel,
Oh.
you can't straighten it. You have to replace it. So
It's
just different types of metals, and so you have to know all these things before you even disassemble the vehicle, before you can write a thorough, we refer to as a damage repair assessment.
okay.
Okay, so you think of the terminology that gets thrown around with like most people or insurance companies is we just need an estimate. It's like, well, to be fair, it's like you don't need an estimate, you need the vehicle repaired, right, back to pre-loss condition as best as humanly possible, based upon the information that's available to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for us, we're just directed by the engineers who designed the vehicle. So, for example, like what's the brand of vehicle you drive?
I have a Chevy Cobalt currently.
So General Motors, or more specifically, the engineers at General Motors are very specific in the repair methodology.
Yes.
So they provide us statements, and then they provide us with the exact way that we have to, like say we have to put a quarter panel on the vehicle. They're very specific on using only OEM parts, factory parts, not salvage or aftermarket. Then the types of equipment. You know, we have to use, you know, a specific squeeze type resistance welder. We have to use different types of adhesives and bonding materials. And then beyond that, like if we're sectioning it, you have to section it very specifically. Things like that. It's a very specific process.
Right.
And the reason being is it comes down to crash worthiness. So say we put a quarter panel on your Cobalt, okay? Ideally, if we follow the repair methodology by the engineers who designed the vehicle, you know, in our secondary world, shall we say, if your vehicle is ever involved in a similar collision, it will perform as intended, which means that you will still be within that occupant safety zone, that cage.
Yeah.
So if you were to get rear-ended, say, for example, the energy will go over, under, or around you instead of the vehicle collapsing and you becoming seriously injured. So I'm probably getting in the weeds here.
No, it gets
but it's all about crash worthiness. People think, oh, you just want to charge more. You only want to put OEM parts on. I'm like, no. Like there's another shop in town. He says the same thing. We're just humble service providers. I have trained technicians to use the equipment, but also to follow the repair guidelines provided to us by the engineers who designed the vehicle. I'm not an engineer. I didn't design the vehicle.
All you can do is say, hey, this is how you fix it. All right, cool, I can do that.
Right, so we do the research, we print off the documents, we give that research to our technicians. They have to take the time to read each page before they do anything to the vehicle. They need to know the process, the procedures to provide a safe and proper repair.
Wow, so it's continuous learning.
It's continuous learning.
There's a lot to it, especially. So for you, when did that learning start? Was it when you were in the shop, or did you go to school for any formal education for this?
Not for collision repair.
Not
Ironically
for collision.
enough, I did go to college for a brief stint. I switched from architectural engineering to the legal side. Oh. So like criminal law and evidence, I was studying that.
You do have the
which I still think I missed my calling on that because I actually love the legal side. I love researching and understanding laws and things. Yeah, it's like in my office, and I can show you before you leave, I have all the Kansas state statutes. And the reason being is I had to buy the whole set so I could get Chapter 40. And Chapter 40 speaks specifically to insurance laws and regulations.
That makes sense.
And so I have to understand these things, although I have to preface it and say I'm not an attorney, I cannot provide legal advice. I have to at least understand what the statutes mean and the implications and how that can impact the average consumer who doesn't know what their consumer rights are. And it's my job to help educate them, at least on the crash worthiness side. And if they feel or we see any deviation with the insurance company or the adjusters, in the sense that if they're not willing to fully indemnify the client for a safe and proper repair, you know, we can go down the weeds and we talk about this for hours.
I mean, honestly, when I came in, you were dealing with something similar to this as it was like with the insurance that you were telling me off camera.
Yeah.
I mean, and you were in there with your clients for probably 15, 20 minutes, making sure to get everything, all I's dotted and T's crossed. So you really go that extra mile to make sure that they understand what they can do as a consumer and what you can do to help them as a consumer.
Exactly. Yeah, to your point there, it's like, say you were just referred to us and you're like, hey, I need an estimate to have my vehicle repaired. It's like, okay, come on in, we'll sit down, we'll take photos, I'll have you come back in 48 hours and sit down and review what we can see.
Yeah.
My whole thing is I view myself as an educator in the sense that I'm here to help manage your expectations, okay?
Very important.
And if you come in and you're like, okay, yeah, you guys have got great reviews, I want my vehicle repaired correctly, I'm like, great, you're at the right place. And I'll help manage the expectations, let you know, okay, kind of like when you go to the dentist, for example, okay? You go in for your annual cleaning and a checkup, and the dentist comes in and it's like, okay, we've done your x-rays, everything looks great except for, yeah, we're gonna have to do a root canal and a crown.
Uh-oh.
Okay. And so we checked with your insurance carrier and they're looking to cover $1,600 of the $2,700. So you're going to be out of pocket that difference.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is where we're at in the collision world today. Insurance does not always cover everything.
Huh.
And so the short pay could be $1. I've seen as high as $3,000. It just depends on the carrier, depends on the adjuster. If it's Monday or Friday, I don't know what the dynamics are anymore.
If it's hot or cold outside.
But yeah, the point being is, it's my job to educate the consumer on the front side, and whether or not they choose us, it's not about us. It's about me helping them so they can make an informed decision.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
the flip side of the coin is, if you said, well, I was across the street and they said they'd take care of my $1,000 deductible and give me a free loaner car for the duration of the repairs, I'll be like, well, time out. What I'm hearing you say is you're more focused on your out-of-pocket expenses. You're more concerned about your out-of-pocket expenses than you are a safe and proper repair.
Right.
And if that is indeed the case, and you've had the conversation and you feel comfortable about them taking care of you, I will say I feel like they will be a better fit for you, because all I'm going to do is disappoint you.
Ooh.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and so
felt that one.
You know what I'm saying? I'm there for the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so many shops, they just want to get the keys. It's like, I need my car fixed, or I want an estimate. It's like, okay, well, yeah, give me your keys, we'll call you when it's done. It's like, it doesn't work that way anymore.
Man.
You are an active participant. Because here's the thing. So if you did choose us for the repairs, and if your vehicle is more than 12 months old or has more than 12,000 miles, by Kansas law, all the insurance companies, they can figure aftermarket, imitation, or salvage parts. Okay?
Okay.
Which is direct conflict with the engineers at General Motors, who say, no, we only authorize and approve OEM parts because they've been crash tested. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's the difference. So if I have these conversations with people on the front side and prepare them for that, to let them know, okay, there could be some differences, although we work to price match things. You know, if insurance is like, we're going to figure aftermarket and salvage parts, okay, we will get with our vendors at General Motors and see if we can price match.
Right.
You know, 90-95% of the time they can. But at the end of the day, it comes down to safety for us. A safe and proper repair.
That's very important.
Well, here's the thing, because I'm accountable to you, your spouse, your kids, your grandkids, grandparents, friends, anyone that rides in the vehicle for the duration of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And so you say you trade in the vehicle 6 months from now and you get you something else, I still own the repairs of that vehicle for as long as it's on the road. Say we sell the shop or we close up, whatever, I still own the repairs.
Yeah.
It's that serious.
Wow.
And it's not about, it's more about the accountability.
Yeah.
And I think if more shop owners or technicians would really care about the repairs.
Sorry
about that. I've done it like 3 times. Sorry. But you know, if people just generally cared about what they're doing, that would make such a huge difference in our industry.
Yeah.
There's so many shops out there with certifications for this and that. It's like, hey, that's great. You're certified. I've worked with certified technicians. They're certified to the hilt, but they don't care. They don't care internally.
That's a very big, important piece of it.
So if you don't care, I don't care if you're certified or not. I want the guys that truly care about what they're doing, will take the extra time to repair the vehicle properly. If they don't know what they're doing or they have a question, they can come up and we can do the research to make sure it's done correctly. So,
absolutely. That's amazing. I love hearing that.
That's probably a long-winded answer, but
no, it's
as you can see, I get a little passionate about that. So
as you should be. I mean, you've been doing this for a long portion of your life. When did it all become a business for you, though?
So we started the business from scratch. It was January of 2013. So
13.
11 years now. Yep.
Wow.
And the thing is, it wasn't planned.
It wasn't planned. What was okay? So then, what's the story? What was the plan, and then how did it all go
So
awry?
it may seem strange, but after a while, so I started out the hole in the wall shop.
Right.
And from there, within the first 7 years of my career, I was working at one of the top 3 shops in our area. This is the mid 90s, early 90s. So there were 3 well-known shops back in the day that everyone wanted to work for. It was just really hard to get in there. And I was able to get in there and made a go of it. And after 7 years, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like a marriage, the 7-year itch. I just got bored with it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just, it was challenging at first, but it's just kind of the repetition just is so easy. So then from there, I'm like, okay, I'll go do like commercial and industrial. I tried Boeing for about 4 months. After 2 weeks, I realized that was not my world.
Not in the aircraft industry, huh?
We can talk about that in another video. But yeah, from there, I was trying to get out of the industry. I tried so hard. It was crazy. I ended up working for the paint company, AkzoNobel. I worked for them for about 3.5 years as a technical consultant. So I would go in, I could work as a painter by trade. I could go in and work with the technicians, like solving application errors, color issues, anything they may have going on. Then I could also go to the front of the house and work with mostly the owners or the managers about their KPIs, their efficiencies, making sure they're putting everything in the right buckets every month and profitability, things like that.
Yeah, just getting them run clean.
And so, yeah, so after that, I ended up working on, I've been doing this for 20 some years. I also worked on ATM machines.
Interesting.
So you don't think about people vandalizing them or trying to steal them or run into them, but is another business that I just kind of fell into. So I'll travel up to 8 hours to repair an ATM machine.
So you have ATM, like, do you still do that?
I still offer it. Technology's changed a lot,
Right.
and it's rapidly progressed where I haven't done it in a while.
But that was
but
one of the.
But if they call, I'll still do it. So
That's funny.
That again, another time for another video. But yeah, so so how we fell upon this was I had back when I worked for the paint company, and I left there. I was just doing the ATMs full time. I had a manager at one of the MSOs, one of the multi-site operators here in town in Wichita. He was begging me to come work for him. I had to get a working relationship with them. And he's like, just come work for me. You'll make more money than you've ever made. I can't find anyone. I'm like, no, I love you. No, I don't want to do this anymore. And after like 6 months, 7 months, I'm like, fine, I'll come work for you.
He was persistent.
And he was right. He was right. For 2 years, I made more money than I ever made in my life.
Nice.
But I go in, I work, and I go home. Where a lot of the other technicians, they'd go in, they'd screw around, they'd be on their phones doing Facebook and stuff like that. And so what happened after a couple of years, management had changed. The guy had the relationship that hired me. He's the one that moved to Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
And the owner of the MSO, he had passed away. And so new management, younger management came in, and they saw how much money I was making. And then somehow they got out company-wide with over 150 employees. So a lot of internal jealousy happened. And next thing I knew, my head was on the chopping block because he wanted to hire like 3 of his buddies
to
come in.
That's how it always
so
works.
I'm like, hey, whatever. And honestly, I was getting to the point where I was pretty miserable. I mean, I was making killer money, but it's like every week I'm like, okay, are they going to fire me? What's going to happen?
Something.
Because they're always drumming up something. And I'm like, okay, whatever, guys. So a week before Christmas 2012, they let me go. Okay. And so a lot of stress during that time frame. We had family coming in for Christmas. We're remodeling the home.
Just all
just a little pressure cooker. But my wife and I, we kind of had that come to Jesus meeting where we just sat down and had to decide. It's like, okay, kind of have 2 options. Do you want to sell everything and just move out of state, move closer to her family? Or because we're both gifted with our skill sets in 2 different areas, do we want to take a run at this?
Give it your own stab.
Run our business morally and ethically sound. Treat customers the way they want to be treated.
Yeah.
And I mean, we won't know unless we take a run at it. And so, yeah, January 2013, we my neighbor, my good friend, one of my attorneys, he's always looking. He found us a little building, a little 2,400 square foot building, and there's a shell of a building, so we had to do concrete, plumbing, and all sorts of stuff. But
Oh wow.
we started at zero, and yeah, what's been 5 years ago? Well, 6 years. I think it's 6 years ago now. Yeah, 6 years ago, here in February, we purchased this property.
Wow.
And so
That's
we've gone from
amazing.
2,400 square feet to 10,000. We've outgrown it, quite honestly.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed.
And then there's so many other variables. You know, we all went through that fun period of COVID.
Oh
and,
boy.
And then the great, what do they call it? The great retirement or the great.
Oh,
when everyone decided to leave the workforce at once.
Yeah, because we're coming into the age of where the boomer generation and X generation are starting to get into the retirement age of 55 plus, where a lot of that capital is exiting the market.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I got cash now.
Well, yeah, there's that, but no, I'm talking about like is right after COVID started, was it 2021 maybe? It was like a lot of people just like decided they just don't want to work. They just quit working.
Workforce wise.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what that was called. It's like not the Great Recession, but so yeah, within a very short period, we had like 6 people just like leave.
They just didn't want.
It was just weird for a variety of reasons. You know, they weren't good fit for our team, or they were like, we had people just flat out leave the industry. So, you know, a lot of things like that impacted us. But you know, knock on wood, we're blessed now. You met some of my team members, and
they're pretty good guys.
We've got a good team. We've got what's really nice. We've got some younger guys that are in their 20s that actually have a work ethic, want to learn, want to grow. So I think that's what excites me more than anything.
That's
because,
amazing.
Like, you met my older technician who's pushing 70, and granted, he works circles around all of us. But the fact that he has all this wealth and knowledge that he can pass on to the younger technicians, that's truly the gift.
Teaching them that and giving them guidance and mentorship of how to solve problems that they haven't faced yet. That's super big.
Well,
that's so
getting people to think for themselves.
Problem solve.
Critical thinking. I think we can both agree that's huge.
If you're going to be a business owner, if you have to be a critical thinker, if you're going to be a leader, you're going to have to be critical thinking. Now, if you are a gopher, you may just need to be told what to do and follow directions well. But if you want to strive for excellence and go for your goals, you absolutely have to.
Absolutely.
So we're going on, you said 13, right? So we're at 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
We cross paths networking, Business Network International, or Business Network International, BNI. Took me a second.
There you go.
How long have you been networking in general? Because I know you've been with BNI for like 8 years.
8 years. Yeah, it's 8 years this month.
Now, was BNI your first like networking experience?
No.
Okay, so where did that start off?
Prior to BNI, it was, I guess you could say, loosely networking. Would have been like chamber events or WEBA, you know, things of those events where maybe there's more than one of what you know, if you're real estate, maybe there's 3 others doing real estate, or, you know, a couple other body shops, whatever it was. But that was when I first started trying to get out of my, you know, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes, that's important.
You know, I mean, like what is public speaking's everyone's number one fear, you know, and that's before death and taxes.
Yeah,
I forget the order, but
it's up there.
So that being said, when I had the sales gig with Axon Nobel, that forced me to get out of my comfort zone. You know, doing PowerPoint presentations, being in front of an audience, educating shop owners on things. But yeah, the true networking didn't start until we'd actually started the business. And so yeah, it started with like the Derby Chamber, Wichita Chamber.
Those are always good spots.
Yeah, and they all serve a Rotary. You know, they all have different purposes. And like Ivan Meisner, the founder of BNI, you know, he says it's like you don't want to do just BNI. No. You know, the other service organizations are great. You know, whether it's Rotary or the Optimist Club, or I said WEBA or your chambers. You know, you want to be plugged in multiple different areas because they all have different functions within the community.
Absolutely. Whereas
BNI is truly focused on referral generation, you know, through that focused and accountable networking.
Yeah. How important has networking been for you to build this business?
For myself, it's been huge. on multiple levels.
Okay, I would love to
I'll
hear
qualify
this.
by I'll qualify that by saying, so it's like, okay, so in BNI we're talking about, okay, you want to educate your sales team so they can help find you those referrals to help you grow your business. So at the end of the day, it's you want to grow your business financially. So it's, like I said, coming up on 8 years, or it is 8 years, I should say. And so I can directly track roughly $1 million has come through BNI.
Wow.
Or BNI's referrals, or the people that have connected people, and it all comes back to BNI.
Right.
So financially, it's been huge, but for myself, BNI, it goes way beyond the financial side, because I know for myself, I've seen a huge difference. We talk about public speaking, right? I mean, you visited the chapters, standing up and giving a weekly presentation. It's like, talking about who you are, what you do, a specialized, your specialty service or product that you offer.
Yeah.
Right.
It's tough.
And then who your ideal referral is. It's like so many people, especially if they're not comfortable doing public speaking, just don't want to stand up and talk about that. I didn't, and so I know it's helped me professionally become a better communicator, a better manager, a better spouse, a better leader.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I'm so passionate about the education that BNI offers through their platform, like BNI Business Builder. Is majority of it, I feel, it's not BNI specific. There's a lot of specific BNI training for how to use the system and things, great webinars.
Right.
But so much more of it is opportunities to learn from other professionals. How to grow your business, how to have effective one-to-ones, how to have effective conversations. And that translates so well in every aspect of your life where you're dealing with other people. In the sense of, when you're having conversations with your spouse or with your coworkers or your teammates, your friends, or just people that you meet, right? I think it help provide guidance and direction. And like for myself, I want to learn more about your business. What drew you in? Why do you want to do the podcast thing?
Right.
And how all that started. And it's like at the end of it, it's like, well, how can I help you grow that? To me, that's just that all just it all stems from the core values and beliefs that Ivan Meisner created. It's 40 years ago this year.
It is. Wow.
It's 40 years.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And just that, it wasn't a planned business either for him.
It wasn't?
No. And
I don't know the story of how he actually started BNI.
Well, we'll save that for another podcast.
It wasn't episode 3, 4, 5.
But he was one of those forced changes, and when it happened and it started growing, it's like, this makes sense. No one else was offering it, and so like many different legacy media, you'll hear like CNN and maybe Forbes, some of them. It's like they're talking about, he's like the father of networking. He truly is.
That's crazy.
Father of modern networking. Maybe that's it more specifically.
That's a heck of a title to have. I mean, I know BNI it's international, literally everywhere. And they hold chapters, and it was a really great. It was my first experience to networking was BNI. I owned a window cleaning company at the time, 2020. I started a window cleaning company after getting laid off from aerospace. Ali Koppel, who is going to be on the show soon, who I was just door knocking with my my belt on, and she was right next to my very first client at the Arsenal Sports, and so I went next door. I was like, "Hey, I'd love to clean your windows." She's like, "Sure." So I landed her as a client right then and there, and then she's like, "You got to come to BNI," and it was back during 2020 and during COVID, so it was on a Wednesday at 11:30. I was like, all right, I'll make it swing. I'll hang out, join the Zoom. Yeah. It was kind of weird because it was all on Zoom at the point.
Well, it was a strange time for all of us,
right? So, but it was fun though, because like you got to go into there, you got to meet all these other people who were business owners, and it gave me a really good opportunity to start learning how to talk to other business owners, because that was a skill I didn't have yet. You know what I mean? I was engineering. I had a sales background in Washington when I was doing car sales or door to door for Kirby. So I knew how to talk. I could do that part, but communicating and talking are two different things.
Yeah, because you hit the nail on the head, because it all ties into active listening.
Yes.
And that's, I think, another one of the great things about BNI, and I'm sure that's helped you grow as well. I mean, I think you're a great communicator. You
Thank you.
actively listen.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that struck me when I first met you, is when you stood up, you had clarity, and you projected your voice, clarity in communication, and specific. You're very. I feel like you chose your words very precisely.
Yes.
And
Do that on purpose.
that's key. That's key, right? And so if you want to accurately communicate whatever your thoughts or feelings or emotions, whatever it may be, to somebody, it's like, okay, you need to be more specific as much as you can in that verbiage. So
it's funny, that stems from me being dyslexic and not being able to write or read very well. Learning at a young age, communicating is very key. Like, your voice is very powerful. There's a huge difference between speaking and talking. Talk is cheap. Speaking will lead millions to war. So with that kind of like thinking about how to communicate being younger, with a lot of, I had an IEP in school, an individual education program. It was for writing and reading. I just did not click with it. So one of the things is, I grew up through like middle school, is started to learn how to use my voice, how to manipulate people, how to like get them to do things I want, or how to talk, or what verbiage to use.
Sure.
Because that's the only way I knew how. I didn't really know how to write. By reading, I really didn't care. I didn't find a lot of like entertainment in reading. Nowadays, being an entrepreneur, 33, grown a lot from when I was there. Like, I will absolutely read if it can teach me how to make more money, or something, how to do something better. I'm not reading Harry Potter because it's entertaining. That's not happening. But if you give me a book on how to win friends and influence people by Dale Carnegie, that's one of my favorite books. And it's like, those I will absolutely read. But like, me learning how to speak comes from just being dyslexic.
Wow, that's an interesting story.
And nowadays, with the technology, I don't have to write nothing either. So I put on my headset, I go to my Google document, and in Tools, this is a plug for anyone who doesn't know this, go to your Tools bar, go down, it says voice text. It'll pop up. I have a nice headset. I'll hit record. I know punctuation very well, so it's not the best with punctuation, so you need to make sure that you're doing it. All of my emails I do, all of my copy, I don't type or write jack.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to.
This is all. Of this is voice to text.
Okay, we'll talk after this is filmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can learn from you, definitely.
Dude, I don't write anything. I use my voice. I don't care. You can't get me to not.
Well, yeah, it's so much faster, probably too.
Dude, however long it takes me to say it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that. It's so much more efficient. Yeah.
And it's not that it's just efficient. It's just the way that I had to figure out a workaround, and it's just there now. I didn't have. If I would have had this as a kid, I would have already taken over the world to some degree somehow. Because I've always had like the drive to want to be in business to some degree. Yeah. It was a different upbringing for me. But like, I always had some sort of like, I almost want to say conquering drive. Conquer something.
Yeah.
Didn't know what that something was for a long time. And like, in this realm is the realm that I found it. And so like, now being able to use it, this is a fun journey.
Exciting for you.
Yeah,
I'm excited for you. You're gonna go a long way.
I appreciate that.
Oh, by the way, you said you want to conquer. I don't know if you heard, we got some job openings coming up this year.
I don't know about
I mean, I'm just saying, if you're up for president, hey, we got some openings coming up.
Funny. I can't take the seat. I got in trouble as a kid. But one of my goals, I do want to put someone in the White House.
Yeah.
I absolutely want to do that.
Well,
I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but we'll figure it out.
You're going to do it with your gifts and your skills. That's what you're going to do.
So back to, networking, how important it is. What are some tips to those new business owners who are coming into either a BNI meeting or a chamber meeting? Like, what are something that you would tell them, hey, this is to calm their nerves a little bit and give them a little bit of tip for success?
To calm their nerves, tips for success. Great question. I think first and foremost, don't be nervous. Because here's the thing. We were all nervous. Some of us are still nervous in the room. Just because people don't look like they're nervous doesn't mean they're not nervous.
I still sweat. My palms get sweaty. I get hot before knowing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Every time I can have it. I can be rehearsing it for the whole week.
Head in head.
Yeah. We're our own worst enemies, and that would be my first tip for people. especially maybe younger people or people who are not comfortable public speaking. What did I say? Don't sweat the small stuff, right?
Absolutely.
It's like we're all there to learn and grow. We're not there to be judged. Constructive criticism, sure, that comes later.
Yes.
But don't stress about it. Just get in there, say whatever you need to, and eat if you're willing to learn, right? If you're an active listener and willing to keep focused and continue to grow and work on your presentation skills, you'll get there. That's one of the things I absolutely love is watching new members come in when they're nervous at first or they're like, I can't do this. And then 6 months or a year later, 2 years later, that seriously, that gets me so excited. So I'm like, yes, it works because, and then when they see that, like you recognize how much they've grown, how much they've improved, it gets them excited. Then they share that with other people. It's just kind of that snowball effect.
That the butterfly effect.
Yeah, however you want to phrase it. Absolutely. So yeah, that'd be my biggest piece of advice is just don't sweat it. Everyone was a visitor at some point. Everyone was a new member. I'm gonna say 99 out of 100 people are nervous standing up, or it's like, yeah, don't worry, you're not being judged because guess what? The rest of us in the room, we've been there, we've done that. We're just there to help support them, whatever capacity that may be.
Absolutely. To watch others grow along the journey is an amazing process. Only being in the journey for 3.5 years myself, knowing where I started and what I didn't know then versus what I know now, and like it's you get those opportunities to reflect on it, and it's cool. You take a moment, like think about the journey, like think about the last year of what the things that you've accomplished, you learned. Like it's good to celebrate those things, to reflect on them and feel good about them. Like you learned something, you grew, you did something that you were not comfortable in doing, and now it is like almost like breathing.
It's the thought of moving the needle forward.
Absolutely.
Right? Just like goal setting, whatever, like, baby stepping it, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the one thing you need to do today to move the needle forward in your business? Focus on that.
Absolutely.
Don't have 10, 15, 20 things. Say you even have 3 things written down. What's the most important? Focus on that for the day and make that your objective. And if you can move the needle forward in your business, if you do that one thing, then you're moving forward. Absolutely. It may not seem like it at the time, but all those little micro steps that you make, guess what? A year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, it's going to get you to where you need to be.
Mm-hmm. And having patience. This is a long game. No one gets successful, rich, whatever word you want to use. That you're
not legally.
That you're chasing.
Not
legally. No, but like this game is a long game. This is
if people would think about it, especially like young entrepreneurs, young people, well, you're still young.
I'm 33.
But for the young people out there that are maybe just starting business, like the photographer on our group, she's only 19.
Yeah.
But she's been doing it for 2 years. It's like, okay, well, older folks like us, we're there to help guide her, help support her, help connect her with the people she needs to be connected with.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I'd say for the young people is like, figure out what you're passionate about. Figure out what you just truly love. Maybe you don't know yet. Maybe there's 2 or 3 things. Well, just spend some time on those things and research them and figure out, can you make a living at it? Can you make a good living? Is it, at the end of the day, what is the quality of your life going to look like, whatever career path you choose?
Yeah.
And then once you do that, reverse engineer it. It's like, okay, I want to retire by X, by this age, this is the annual income I want to have when I retire, and this is where I want to live. And you've heard us talk about your BHAG, right? Your big, hairy, audacious goal. It's like, okay, want to make a lot of money. Sure. Why do you want to make a lot of money? Drill down. At the end,
what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. What is that impact of the referrals and making all that money? Where's that going to lead to? Oh, well, you're going to have the wooded, the log cabin out in the middle of 160 acres out in the middle of Colorado. I don't know. If that's your goal, that's what those referrals will lead you to.
Yes.
And so just for the young people, it's just like, I know you're young, you think you got a lot of time on your hands. You've heard us old folks talk about it. Time speeds up. It gets faster.
Yeah, I'm a father. I have a 9-year-old, and he's about to turn 10 in July. And me and like the other day, I was watching him we went to the park. He was just riding his bike, man. And like it was just a few months ago. He was like, I want to ride a bike. I want to be a scooter boy. Blah, blah, blah. But now he's up riding like, and it's just like it goes so fast.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who's in business, who was also just on the podcast recently, he just had a baby, 3 months old. And I was just like, I was talking to him. I was like, man, I remember when my son was 3 months old and I can hold him on my arm and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dude, enjoy it now. It will be gone in a blink of an eye.
They're going to be 18 and graduating, and
That time flies.
figuring out what they're going to do for their life. And yeah.
So what is next for you? What is next for James? What's going on?
As far as business,
Yeah, what's the plans? What's next? What's the next expansion? What's next to take
for
over?
business this year? We're set up to have a successful year. We've got our team in place. We've got great clients in place. We'll see what the economy does. That's the biggest thing that we're concerned about. That impacts people's financial decisions.
Absolutely.
Right? You look at the cost of living index. You look at inflation. You look at people's uneasiness about spending funds maybe they don't necessarily have to. So we'll see. But at the end of the day, we're focused on growth. We need to grow. We're set up to grow probably another 18 to 20% this year.
Nice. Love it.
Overall sales, we'll say.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've got it set up to do well. We're looking at expanding, adding onto the building. We have other big projects in the future here, so we can do that on a follow-up podcast.
All right. That's great, because
But yeah.
I mean, I am excited for the future to see what you're doing. And as we do come to a close of our first part one, this is definitely going to be a part one of multiple.
I'm excited.
I've kind of anchored this question for everybody as I close out. You get up in the morning, you're getting ready for work.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's ready. You go to walk out the door. You see 18-year-old James. You guys lock eyes.
18-year-old?
18-year-old James.
Oh, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
You don't get to give him all the answers, but I want you to give that young man some advice. What advice do you tell
how much
that
time
man?
do I have to give that young man?
You got 30 seconds.
To give him some advice.
Yes, sir.
About
just whatever you want to tell him.
God, 18-year-old James was such a punk kid. I don't know if he would have listened, quite honestly. I really don't.
You don't have to listen, but it depends on whatever you tell him, I guess.
That's a great question. Yeah, I like the.
It's made quite a few people think for a moment.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that surprise element. Yeah. Advice I would give him. Focus on long-term goals and objectives.
Focus the long term, not short term.
Focus long term. Focus more on the investing within not only a business, but within himself.
That's a good one. That's very important.
Because, and what I mean by investing in himself is kind of like what you've talked about already. You love the education pieces of reading, and what can I do to improve my life financially? What can I do to become a better communicator and things like that? Granted, there's been a whole bunch of new information out here since young James, 18 years old, but I think the personal growth and development is huge. And it's like, okay, I'd advise him to focus on that long-term objectives, both personally and professionally.
That's good.
Forget about cars and women.
I can agree with half of that.
You're going to go broke with both of them.
That's true. Oh, that's such a great, and that's an amazing piece to leave this off of. This was great. Thank you again for being on an episode of Networking with Nick, part one, done with James here at ICS Collision. And this amazing, beautiful Fisker. God, it's a nice car. Next time you have to let me drive it.
We can go for a spin.
Hell yeah. Thanks again, brother.